Hello, everyone. My name is Lindabeth Binkley, and I am the oboist on the wonderful new recording called From Earth and Sky, music of Jenni Brandon. I am here today to share with you a wonderful chat with my colleague, MaryBeth Minnis, who is the bassoon professor at Central Michigan University, and Jenni Brandon, the composer of this amazing work. And I'm just going to warn you all that we might laugh a lot. This is going to be like a big old party because we have a good time when we get together. So this piece called Going to the Sun, Snapshots from Glacier National Park, is an amazing work. And it does take you on a journey from start to finish, right, MaryBeth?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Absolutely. And it's awesome and challenging in ways as a double reed player that you probably will never, ever think about. But it's so much fun to put together and to work on together. So we had a great time collaborating on it. And so MaryBeth, as the bassoonist,
Yes, ma'am.
What's tough about this piece?
I think some of it, there's a lot of styles that you have to switch, a different snapshot, if you will. And some of it is, I always feel as a bassoonist anyways, that I'm really responsible for the rhythm and the meter and to keep things going. And it's challenging to do that sometimes with a piece like this that is lengthy, but has so many different characters. So you have to switch characters and I feel like I got to keep driving, keep going, And so some of that was a challenge, just even the breathing sometimes too.
Oh, the breathing. That's tough. That's tough. It took a lot of teamwork to get that to go.
Yeah.
And before we go any further, I do want to acknowledge and thank Jennifer Guggen-Kavanaugh, right, Jenny, and I can't remember now.
Elizabeth Crawford.
Elizabeth Ball Crawford.
Elizabeth Ball Crawford, who commissioned this work initially, and I believe didn't they premiere it at IDRS in Columbus?
That's where I met Jenny.
Yeah.
Right. Me too. And it was so weird because they did that right before I performed the Wildflower Trio with my friend Scott Poole. And so that's how we actually ended up meeting Jenny and kind of discovering this piece for this project, which is, it's just the way the world works. I think that for me, what was challenging in this piece was the versatility that I needed to have in terms of my reeds. Miss Jenny making me use the entire full range of the oboe.
Guys.
And it's extraordinary and that's one of the things that I love about your writing is that you do understand how to use the full range of my instrument and you do it beautifully. But man, some of that stuff is tricky. It is very tricky. And I think we had more conversations. I'm just going to fess up here, people. The 7/8 section. We had more conversations about how fast to go. How does this work? How does this fit together? Right, MaryBeth?
Yeah. You practice things and you kind of check the ideal tempo, but then sometimes somehow you forget. And so you kind of slow things down. And then all of a sudden we realized we were a little too relaxed and we wanted to be kind of moving. And so how can I do that on a low D or a low D flat, and so you sent me a clip, Lindabeth, of the tempo you were aiming for, and so I would put that on and I'd get my metronome marking going, and it was just a little challenging. And then it all works when you get it right. It all works, but until then it's a little bit of a struggle.
We had many a rehearsal, and we struggled a little bit, Jenny, just so you know, we struggled a little bit with the page turns initially.
Right.
So when we performed the piece, we had like 2 stands a piece, because I do not have the iPad thing. I just haven't done that. I haven't done the iPad thing. So I've still used paper, but it was like we had 3 stands and we're walking across the stage.
It's choreographed.
Yeah, and then flipping the pages from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a challenge too with a piece like that when it's a duet, and it's not, like love songs where it's, you've got a soprano who can, she can flip her page, but you've got two instrumentalists who both have their hands on their instruments all the time. And it's a duet, so it's just continuous. And so, like, I try to be really thoughtful about page turns, but on a piece like that, it's almost impossible. Like, it's so hard. So yeah. So then you've got, like, your tape rollout. I know, taping everything together and just lining it up along the way. It's tricky. It's really hard. Yeah.
But you had even offered to put it in out of the duet form, like just the bassoon part, and extract the parts.
Right.
But you really need to see the other parts. I think that was more critical than figuring out the page turns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with an iPad, it was a little tricky. So
yeah, and that's always what I think with duets sometimes, because we had talked about that, and I thought, oh, that makes sense. Of course, we would have like separate parts, but yeah, for a duet like this, especially because stuff is so interwoven, I always felt like, you kind of maybe want to see what the other person's up to, at all times. So, but we all, you all figured it out, though. I know you.
Oh yeah.
You thought a lot about it, which I think is amazing, and really gave it, serious consideration. We even sat and talked about the score in Ithaca when we did our performance with Limitless Collective for the bassoon concerto, Kane. We had talked about it and just kind of went through the score. And so, even that was in March of 2018.
Yeah, that was March. Yeah, March 2018.
No, 2019. March 2019. No,
Yeah.
2019. Yeah. Yeah. So, I really appreciate how much time you both took to think about putting that piece together logistically, just paper-wise. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I will say this, because again, I've said this on previous interviews that we've been doing for every piece, that this is the first time I've ever worked closely with a composer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so at ease and thankful for how open you were to me and to everybody when we were working on your pieces, and responsive to questions and willing to dialogue about things that we were like, I don't know, what are you thinking here? Is this what you want? And that I think comes through in the recording because it seems very like we've really thought about it, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it. And so I'm grateful to you for that. I think it greatly improved the experience for me and made it much more interesting. And, when you're going to record something, you do it over and over and over again. And you practice, you practice it over and over and over again. And so having that flexibility and that connection with you was really, really wonderful.
Oh, well, and, I'm so grateful. For the time that you both spent on this piece and, with the whole CD. And I think it's that collaborative effort that is, I think, the most joyful part of what we do is the collaboration, and, beyond just, okay, well, I wrote a piece and here you go, good luck. Like, I consider all of it collaborative, and it's fun. And it's fun to see you all work stuff out and in this piece, and then come to me with questions about it too. And I wanted to just ask about that, like, as far as preparation, for a piece like this, like as duet, obviously you're both working on your parts separately, but then, it sounds like coming together, you really, you spent serious time, like, digging into stuff. That sounds like that's your process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have a good time doing it.
That helps.
We'd get to one part and we'd say, well, let's try it this way. And then okay, let's try it this way, and we got to do bigger sections because trying to figure out what you want, you write notes in the, musical notes, and we try and figure that out. But then it's the overall picture of what you're really going for. And which is hard. How can a composer put everything down on paper? There's a real fine balance. I can't even imagine. And so, we worked we worked on a lot of different things, but like I said, that's kind of what we like doing, you know, we'd spend
Right.
hours doing that and
Many of
go back and think about it. Yeah.
yeah, many a philosophical conversation. Do you think she means this? Or do you think-
or maybe it's not that deep and she just really means to play a quarter note. It's fine.
And that would be what Mary
I
Beth
like
would tell
it.
me. She's like, Lindabeth, don't overthink it. But that's what I do. That's my process.
It's great. But that's your process. Like, I love that. Like that's the process of like going through it and digging into it. And that's something I've learned too over the years of writing for instrumentalists is like, you can be specific in the score, but I also have to leave space for you all to interpret things as well. Like I don't want to control every single note, because that means that I mean, if I'm going to do that, I might as well just play it off my computer and call it a day. You know, like I want you all to think about stuff and make decisions, and the decisions are going to be yours. And yes, it's coming from the music, and I try to be as clear as possible, but you make these decisions that make the piece yours, and it settles. And that's why it's such a beautiful recording, because you made it yours, and it's exactly everything that I ever hoped the piece could be, you know, like, I mean, because you spent so much time with it. So it's just this beautiful collaboration between the two of you that's so amazing.
Why, thank you. We appreciate that. We're the dynamic duo, the
Yeah.
Beths.
The best.
Yeah. And I was gonna also talk about the Tamriel Trails in this piece specifically, because you know, when I first started messing with them, it was different than thinking about them like birds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking about them like birds. And this is a funny story. So I sort of, you know, I reconciled it and sort of worked through my process about how it was going to go. And in June of last year was in Alaska, and actually saw my first glacier, and like, you know, walked out on the glaciers, and it was cold and I was shivering, and all of a sudden I remember thinking to myself, oh, that Tamriel Trill is kind of like a shiver, like that moment of stepping out and seeing this big expanse of, you know, thing, and being, I mean, I know it sounds kind of silly, but
No.
now I can't not hear that and visualize that. Even when I listen to the recording, I'm like, oh, that's kind of what I think she was
I
thinking.
love it.
You know, but that speaks to your music and the fact that it is so visual, like the imagery, you know, if there's not a, you know, if there's not a poem like or text, you know, like with song or love songs, this is, you're trying to depict visual scenes of places that may be familiar to people or may not be familiar to them.
Right.
Will they pick up on that energy and that scope, which I think is fascinating.
Well, and I feel like I should add that to the score, to be like, Tamriel Trail, like the first time you step out and see a glacier. I think it's great, because that's the idea. And it's just, that's a beautiful, like, it's beautiful. I love that it really struck you when you walked out on a glacier in Alaska. That's so cool.
Random thoughts.
It's great. No, it's wonderful. But that's how we process as musicians. Like, you know, we're constantly taking experiences that we have and bringing them into the music that we are playing or we're writing. And so, like, that's real. Like, that's really cool. Yeah.
So MaryBeth, here's another question for you, because we have not talked about this. Assuming that there will be others that follow us that will take a shine to this piece and hopefully play it lots and perform it lots, what advice would you have to starting to learn the bassoon part for this piece? Like, where do you start? Because it's like, and okay, just gonna go there, the reed situation. Like, did you have to have special reeds just for this piece? Did you make one reed that did it all? I mean,
Well, you have to have one reed that does it all. You don't get to stop and change, you know. It's not like you can take it out of a movement, you know. So you have, and I mean, again, you had said, we were talking to Jenny about the full expansion. I mean, you know, this goes the whole range, you know. I think you need something that will respond down low and be able to move, get the air going and move. And it can't just be a high reed, just can't be a low reed, in fact. But it's something responsive, I think, I don't know, I think what was helpful was that we had played this on a recital.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember when it was.
Like November, was that November?
And then let it set, and then came back to it. And I think that's always good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always good to get perspective and to let things simmer under your fingers, And in the meantime, I think we played more Jenni Brandon. So particular keys and styles,
Okay.
So that helped. Actually, it really helped. So to me, it was more learning it, but playing it. And it's, that's when you do a recording, you just play, and doing sections. And remember when we were preparing for recording this, and what's the rain one? The Weeping Wall,
Oh, the Weeping Wall, yes.
How we did that, and over and over again, and like 3 days in a row, and because we just, plus we couldn't stop and laugh, so.
You had to get the giggles out of the way.
Mistake, and so then we're gone for another 5 minutes. But I think also to play it, and then you have the perspective from the whole piece, mm-hmm. and how the piece is going to move from one scene to the next. I think that was a reed that'll play low, and yeah.
Well, and the other thing that I think other players, especially younger players that might be considering taking this on, won't realize until they get into it is that a duet like this, it is unusual to have a duet like this for just oboe and bassoon that is this solid and this long. I mean, this is a lengthy piece where your instrument is on your face for the entire time. And there's no piano to hide from, behind. There's nothing there. And for double reeds, that's, you feel very naked and exposed. And you need to find a partner that you speak the same musical language and the same, to a certain extent, the same reed language as well. I think, that I understand how her reeds work. She understands what I like to hear and do. And it allowed us to make some really beautiful colors and blend in a really unique way. But I think that when I think about younger players or playing this piece, the biggest advice I would give them would be to make sure they have the stamina to do it, because it's taxing on the face.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, and I think the other thing that you said too right there was that, I mean, there's that one part, I was trying to find it, where it's after Weeping, I can't remember where it is, but we know each other so well that even when we did the recording, we didn't need to do many takes because it's in unison, and we can read each other so well that we know how the flick of her eyebrow, I'm like, I'm there, I got that, or vice versa. Or I'll give her the eyebrow, like, cut it off because I'm done right now. This means no more, but that somebody that you can have that collaboration with. I mean, we love working this out. This was fun, where other people are like, okay, can't you just make a decision and move on? But we like to work it out, but we like to play with each other together. And then that we just know what the other person's going to do is that's the joy of making music too, is just that collaboration. So I think it's also be somebody you got to be able to put the time in and like doing that together for a piece to really come off like that, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I really love the piece. I mean, I do. So my question for you, Jenny, is I always think, I mean, you write very well for the oboe for sure, but I also think you do a lot of bassoon music. Like, do you feel like you know the bassoon really well, like in terms of the instrument and its issues?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like, because I've been writing so much for the bassoon lately, that I've gotten to know more and more of the unique and special nuances of the instrument. And each project that I do with a bassoonist, I learn something more. Like I always think, okay, I've got this thing under control. I know how to write for the bassoon. And then someone will say, oh, but what about this? I'm like, oh, that just blew my mind. So like, I do feel pretty comfortable writing for the bassoon because of that. And I love the range on the bassoon because it's so big. I mean, like, I think that sometimes people are afraid to explore the whole range of the bassoon, but like, if it's explored well and the performer is willing to, explore it with you, man, the bassoon has just such a great, big, exciting range. So yeah, but I think again, I think I'd said this maybe on another recording that we did, how I feel like the double reeds are such vocal instruments. Like they're just such singing instruments. I mean, from a singer's perspective, from myself as a singer, it's just such a vocal instrument. And so I treat it that way, which I think is why I love to write for the instruments, because I think about those instruments like singers, that I can really exploit the range and exploit the abilities of the instrument. And so, yeah. And with this piece too, I was thinking, because it's a duet and it's so intimate, what you were saying about this being like, oof, it's exposed because it's just two instruments. There's no piano to hide behind. And it's so funny. I mean, I think about that, but now looking back on the piece, I'm like, oh, it is pretty exposed. Like, I mean, it is. But I think I think about it like a duet, like voices singing. And so, I'm not afraid to just explore those ranges in the piece. And I know that, like, with wonderful performers like the two of you are, like, that you will take the time to dig into it and to find how to tell that story. And that's what it is. It's a story. And that's I think the beauty of having two people like you who are so friends and who are so collaborative, work so collaboratively well together, that you care about telling the story, not just playing the notes. And that makes all the difference in a piece like this.
Well, that's what's fun. And that's what's fun about new music, is like trying to figure out that story, and I think that's why I like your music, is because you do it so well, and it's not worth it. It's easy to go there with you. Like that's the fun part about playing your music.
I think sometimes contemporary composers feel like they've got to do something new in such an extreme way that they forget what instrument they're writing for, or they're trying to make an affect rather than saying something. And I think why I like your music, because it is vocal, and that's how I think about bassoon, being a voice. And it's not just about flash and trash, it's about, if there's technique, there's a reason for it. If there's, and it's what the instrument can do and do well, rather than saying, I just want this craziness that's going on. There's a time for that, of course, and it's the style for that. But for me, I just assume sing through my instrument, and that's why for your music, that's like, give me that, it's great,
And it stretches you. I mean, your music stretches the players. It stretches you musically and technically to a certain extent, but the technique is in service of the musicianship.
Right. You want to make this, it's like, oh, I know how this is, I want to make this sound. I wish it was in a different key, Jenni Brandon.
Sorry.
But in my head, nah, I mean, that's just my job.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know what I want. And so it pushes you and makes you better, because you're going to do it in something that maybe isn't as easy as another key or something, but it's got the color. I know you're going for the color.
Right.
And the color that you want, which is cool. So.
Yeah. And I think I mean, if performers are willing to come along on the journey of storytelling, because that's what we are. I mean, as musicians, I mean, we're storytellers. I mean, we're interpreting constantly with what we create, what we make, and so if we remember that, I think it's fun. And it's fun to discover the colors and the stories that we can tell through an instrument that isn't saying words, but is telling a story like it was singing words. That's how I think about, especially a duet like this, to tell that story for sure.
Do you have any projects coming? I mean, what's your next thing that you're working on?
More bassoon.
Yay! Yay!
So much bassoon. I've got a couple projects coming up. I'm working on a duet for bassoon and contrabassoon right now, for Lee and Leah, our contra bassoon plus bassoon duo, and I'm going to be working on a piece for soprano, bassoon, and marimba for Jefferson Campbell. And his wife Jenny, who's a soprano, and a friend of theirs who's a marimbist, and with poetry being written by a local poet out there at where he teaches at school. And so I just got the first bit of poetry the other day, and it's fabulous, and I'm super excited. But I'm also working on an opera, so I'm starting a new opera, and I've been writing in this last month. I've been writing songs from the opera to start to kind of put together material to start to share with the world on that. So yeah, so bassoon, opera. I need to get some more oboe in there. But yeah. So yeah, but I mean, again, just, I feel like I'm in this happy place right now of storytelling, and I just get to tell stories, and a variety of stories. And it's so much fun just to be able to tell stories through music, whether there's text or not. And it feels like a happy place, like exactly where I want to be.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you both for joining me today and spending so much time talking about this fabulous piece. Once again, the name of the recording is From Earth and Sky, music of Jenni Brandon, available wherever you find your music. So thank you, ladies. And I guess that's all we have for you today.
Yay!
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.